Welcome back to the part 2 of the story, The Girl That Went on Coma for 2 years, yet chooses to marry a poor man who cared for her. If you haven't watched part 1, you might decide to watch it first. Check the link of the story in the description below. We are echoes of the baobab trees. Before we start, take a second to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories reach around the world. Let's continue the story. Chief Emeka Okoro stood frozen in his luxurious living room in Ikoyi, Lagos late that Sunday night in July 2025, the secret phone still trembling in his hand. Favour's powerful father had just threatened to destroy their entire business empire if Amara did not marry his son. Emeka's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. "No, this cannot be," he whispered, sweat rolling down his face. His wife rushed in, seeing the fear in his eyes. "What is it, my husband?" she asked, her voice shaking. Before he could answer, Amara walked into the room holding Matthew's hand. "Father, we have decided. I am marrying Matthew," she said boldly. Emeka's eyes widened in shock and rage. He slammed his fist on the table so hard the glass broke. "Never! Over my dead body!" he shouted. The room filled with tension. Little did Amara know that her father's next decision would tear the family apart forever. What shocking thing was Chief Emeka about to do? The next morning, Monday, 28th July 2025, Amara woke up early in her beautiful bedroom. She felt happy thinking about her future with Matthew. She quickly dressed and went downstairs for breakfast. But the moment she entered the dining room, she saw her father's face was dark like a stormy sky. "Sit down, Amara," he said in a cold, firm voice. Her mother looked away, tears already in her eyes. Amara's heart began to beat fast. Something was very wrong. Chief Emeka cleared his throat and spoke with heavy emotion. "Last night, Favour's father called me. If you refuse to marry Favour, he will pull out of all our businesses. We will lose millions, our houses, cars, everything." His voice cracked a little. "I worked all my life for this wealth. I cannot let a poor teacher destroy it." Amara felt her chest tighten with pain. "But father, what about my happiness? Matthew brought me back from coma with his love," she cried, her eyes filling with hot tears. Matthew was at his small flat in Surulere at that same time, preparing lessons for his students. His phone rang. It was Amara. Her voice was trembling with fear. "Matthew, my father is threatening to disown me if I choose you. He says we will become beggars." Matthew's heart sank, but he spoke calmly. "Do not fear, my love. True love is stronger than money. I will wait for you no matter what." His words gave Amara a little strength, but she still felt torn between her parents and her heart. Later that afternoon, Chief Emeka called a big family meeting in the mansion. Relatives from Anambra and Lagos arrived quickly. They sat in the large sitting room, whispering. Emeka stood up and announced loudly, "Amara will marry Favour as soon as he finishes his 2 years in prison. That is final." The relatives clapped and nodded, supporting the rich marriage. Amara stood up bravely, her legs shaking. "I refuse. I love Matthew," she shouted. Gasps filled the room. Her mother burst into tears. The argument grew hotter and louder. Voices rose like thunder. That evening, Amara sneaked out of the house and ran to Matthew's school compound in Surulere. She found him marking books under a mango tree. She fell into his arms, crying bitterly. "They want to force me, Matthew. I don't know what to do." Matthew held her gently, his own eyes wet with tears. "Remember how I cried by your hospital bed for 2 years? That love is still here. We will fight together." They prayed quietly together as the sun set, their hearts full of hope and fear at the same time. 2 days later, on 30th July 2025, shocking news spread across Lagos. Favour's father used his influence and got his son released from prison on bail. Favour came out smiling wickedly, still wearing his expensive clothes. He drove straight to the Okoro mansion with flowers and a big smile. "Uncle Emeka, I am back. Now we can plan the wedding," he said proudly. Amara watched from the window, her blood boiling with anger. "How can this be?" she whispered. "The rich were using money to escape justice again." Chief Emeka welcomed Favour warmly, laughing and shaking hands like old friends. He even invited Favour to dinner that night. Amara refused to come down. She locked herself in her room, heart broken into pieces. "Why is my own father doing this to me?" she sobbed into her pillow. Her mother came to beg her. "Please, my daughter, think of the family. We will lose everything." Amara felt so much pain, like a knife in her chest. Matthew heard the news about Favour's release while teaching his students. His hands shook as he wrote on the board. After school, he rode his old motorcycle through the heavy Lagos traffic to the mansion. When the security men stopped him at the gate, he begged, "Please, I just want to see Amara." But Chief Emeka came out himself and shouted, "Go away, poor man. You will never enter this house again." Matthew's heart shattered, but he stood there bravely, refusing to leave. Amara heard the shouting from her window. She rushed downstairs in tears. "Father, stop! Matthew is the reason I am alive today." She ran and hugged Matthew tightly at the gate. The security men tried to pull them apart. Chief Emeka's face turned red with extreme anger. "If you chose this poor teacher, I will disown you completely. You will no longer be my daughter," he roared. The words hit Amara like a heavy stone. She felt her world crashing down. Then came the most painful and extreme moment of all. Right there at the mansion gate on that hot evening, Amara looked at her father with tears streaming down her face and said in a loud, trembling voice, "If choosing love means losing you, then I am no longer your daughter." She took Matthew's hand and walked away from the big mansion into the busy streets of Ikoyi. Chief Emeka stood shocked, watching his only child leave with nothing but the clothes on her back. Her mother cried loudly behind him. What would happen to Amara and Matthew now that she had been disowned? Would they survive on the streets, or would something even more shocking happen next? The biggest storm was just beginning. Amara and Matthew walked hand in hand away from the grand Okoro mansion in Ikoyi, Lagos, on that dramatic evening of 30th July 2025. Tears streamed down Amara's face as she looked back one last time at the only home she had ever known. Her father's angry words still rang in her ears. "You are no longer my daughter." Her heart felt like it was breaking into 1,000 tiny pieces. Matthew held her hand tighter, his own eyes wet with pain. "We will be okay, my love," he whispered softly. But deep inside, both of them were scared. They had no money, no clothes, and nowhere to sleep that night. Little did they know that this painful moment would lead to the most beautiful miracle of their lives. What would happen to the disowned Coma Sleeping Princess now? They walked for hours through the busy streets of Lagos until they reached Matthew's small one-room flat in Surulere. The room was simple, just a bed, a table, and old books. Amara sat on the edge of the bed, feeling lost and afraid. "I have nothing now, Matthew. No father, no money, nothing," she cried. Matthew knelt in front of her and gently wiped her tears. "You have me, and I have God. That is enough," he said with a warm smile. That night, they ate only rice and beans that Matthew had cooked, but their love made the simple food taste sweet. The next morning, 31st July 2025, Amara woke up early. She decided she would not sit and cry. Since she had finished medical school, she went out to look for work. She walked from hospital to hospital in Surulere and Yaba, but every place asked for experience or connections. By evening, she returned tired and sad. Matthew came back from teaching and saw her face. He hugged her and said, "Tomorrow is another day, my princess." His kind words gave her strength even in their low moment. 3 days later, something surprising happened. One of the nurses from the Banana Island hospital, where Amara had been in coma, heard the story. She called Amara and offered her a job as a junior doctor in a small clinic in Surulere. Amara's heart jumped with joy. "Thank you," she cried on the phone. She started work immediately, wearing simple clothes and smiling brightly. The patients loved her gentle hands and caring heart. For the first time since leaving home, she felt useful and happy again. Matthew continued teaching mathematics to his secondary school students. Every evening, he came home with small gifts, maybe a mango or a piece of bread. They lived simply, but their love grew deeper every day. Amara would cook simple meals and they would pray together before eating. Sometimes they laughed about old memories, and for a while, life felt peaceful and sweet. But in the big mansions of Ikoyi, trouble was still brewing. Chief Emeka sat in his large office 2 weeks later, on 15th August 2025. He looked older and sad. His business partner, Favour's father, had started making problems. Deals were falling apart and money was disappearing fast. Emeka's wife cried every night. "Our daughter is suffering because of us," she said softly. Emeka felt deep regret growing in his heart, but his pride was still too strong to admit it. Favour, now out on bail, heard that Amara was living with Matthew. Anger burned inside him like hot fire. One night, he drove to Surulere with some rough boys again. They waited outside Matthew's flat in the dark. When Matthew stepped out to buy something, they attacked him with sticks. "This is the last time," Favour shouted from his car. Matthew fell to the ground, bleeding. Amara rushed out screaming and covered him with her body. "Leave him alone," she cried. Neighbors came out with lights and chased the attackers away. Matthew was badly hurt, but still alive. The next day at the small clinic, Amara treated Matthew's wounds with shaking hands. Tears fell as she cleaned the blood. "Why do they hate us so much?" she asked. Matthew smiled weakly through the pain. "Because true love is powerful. They cannot understand it." The doctor in charge allowed Amara to take a few days off to care for him. In their small room, she stayed by his side day and night, just like he had stayed by hers in the hospital for 2 long years. Then, on 25th August 2025, a big surprise came. Chief Emeka could no longer bear the guilt. He drove himself in an ordinary car, not his expensive one, to the small flat in Surulere. When Amara opened the door, she gasped in shock. Her father stood there with tears in his eyes. "My daughter, I was wrong," he said, his voice cracking with heavy emotion. "Your mother and I have suffered every day without you. The business is collapsing anyway. Please forgive us." Amara's heart melted. She hugged her father tightly and cried loudly. Matthew watched with a gentle smile. Chief Emeka entered the small room and saw how simply they lived. He looked at Matthew for a long time. Finally, he spoke with a humble voice. "Young man, you showed more love to my daughter than all my money could buy. You cried by her bed. You never left her. Today, I give you my blessing. Marry Amara. She is yours." Matthew knelt down with tears of joy. "Thank you, sir," he said. Amara jumped with happiness, her face shining bright. And so, on a beautiful Saturday morning in September 2025, in a simple church in Surulere, Lagos, Amara Okoro, the Coma Sleeping Princess, walked down the aisle in a modest white dress. Matthew stood waiting for her, looking handsome in his best suit. Chief Emeka and his wife sat proudly in the front row, smiling through happy tears. Favour was back in prison, serving his full 2 years. As the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, the whole church clapped and cheered. Amara looked into Matthew's eyes and whispered, "You woke me up with your love, and now we will live happily forever." Their simple wedding was filled with real joy, songs, and dancing. The poor mathematics teacher and the doctor princess proved that true love is stronger than any billionaire's money, and they lived a blessed life together, teaching their own children the same lesson of faithful love. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next powerful story. Trust me, the next story is even more shocking. See you in the next.